The sky was still half asleep the morning everything changed, but the diner lights flickered awake like they knew a storm was coming. Emma wiped the counter with tired hands, unaware that the quiet routine she had lived for years was about to shatter. For months, she had been serving breakfast to the same old man who came in every dawn, always dressed in the same worn coat and carrying the same gentle sadness in his eyes. She had no idea who he really was, only that he was alone, polite, and grateful for even the smallest kindness. But today, instead of his soft footsteps and familiar smile, the diner doors swung open with a force that froze every utensil mid-clink. 4 towering bodyguards stepped inside, followed by 2 sharply dressed lawyers holding sealed envelopes. And while every customer stared wide-eyed, the only name they asked for was hers. Emma felt the ground tilt, her breath catch, and her heart pound against her ribs. Something she had done, some kindness she barely remembered, was about to turn her life upside down. Sparkles, if you believe kindness returns in unexpected ways, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your support helps us bring more heart-touching stories to the world. Emma's story began long before the bodyguards arrived, long before lawyers whispered her name like it carried weight. She had been working at the small lakeside diner for almost 3 years, taking the morning shift because it was the only time she could work while caring for her ill mother. Every day was the same: prep, serve, clean, repeat, but she held onto the job because it kept a roof over their heads and medicine on the table. Most customers came and went like passing shadows, but the old man who sat at booth 3 each morning became part of her quiet rhythm. His name was Henry. She learned it from the small name tag clipped to an old leather wallet he dropped one morning. He never spoke much, but his gratitude was always sincere. He would nod to her with soft eyes, whispering, "Thank you," even when all she brought him was warm water because he couldn't afford coffee. Emma always slipped him extras, an extra piece of toast, a few more potatoes, a refill she didn't charge for. She didn't think of it as charity, she thought of it as humanity. She knew what it meant to feel like life had squeezed you dry. Henry came every morning, rain or shine, sitting in booth 3 like it was the only place in the world where he felt seen. And Emma served him with the same tenderness as if he were her own grandfather. She never asked why he came alone, why he stared at the window as though waiting for someone who never arrived. She simply showed up, kindness without a reason. What she didn't know was that the old man noticed everything. The way she sometimes hid her shaky hands when stress overwhelmed her, the way she rubbed her temples when the diner got loud, the faint redness in her eyes on mornings she had spent the night caring for her mother. He didn't know her story, but he knew struggle when he saw it. And for reasons he kept buried, her kindness reminded him of someone he once loved deeply. But one morning, Henry didn't come. Emma brushed it off at first. Maybe he overslept, maybe he stayed home because of the rain, maybe he had an appointment. But when the second day passed with no sign of his fragile frame entering the diner, a cold lump formed in her stomach. She tried to ignore it as she busied herself with extra shifts, worried bills, and caring for her mother, but part of her, a quiet aching part, missed the old man in booth 3. His absence felt heavier than it should have for someone she barely knew. She didn't know that behind the scenes, Henry's world had taken its final quiet breath. On the 5th morning, Emma was wiping down booth 3 when the double doors of the diner opened with unsettling authority. 4 massive bodyguards entered first, each scanning the room as if expecting danger. Then, 2 suited lawyers stepped in. Their polished shoes and crisp coats looked painfully out of place in the worn-down diner with its flickering neon sign. Every customer froze. Emma clutched the cloth in her hand, confused and anxious, until one of the lawyers locked eyes with her and asked in a steady voice, "Are you Emma Davis?" Hearing her own name felt like a punch. She nodded slowly. The lawyer exchanged a brief glance with his partner before saying the words that silenced even the fridge hum, "We're here on behalf of Mr. Henry Whitlock." Emma blinked, confused. Henry Whitlock. She only knew him as Henry, the gentle old man who sipped warm water and smiled softly at her kindness. She had no idea that behind the worn coat and humble appearance, he carried a name that once belonged to a man of tremendous wealth and influence. The lawyers handed her a sealed envelope, but her hands trembled too much to open it. She felt the weight of every eye in the diner on her. The lead lawyer explained that Henry had passed away 2 days earlier, and in his final instructions, he specifically named Emma as someone who must be personally contacted. Emma felt her knees weaken. She had never expected her simple act of kindness to lead to this moment, this surreal, overwhelming reality where she was suddenly connected to a world she knew nothing about. When she finally opened the envelope, her eyes blurred with disbelief. Henry had left her a handwritten letter and a legal document. In the letter, written with shaky but heartfelt strokes, he explained everything. He had once been a powerful businessman, wealthy and respected, but life had taken a tragic turn. His only son had died young, and his wife soon after. Grief swallowed him whole. He abandoned the world he once ruled, wandering through life with no purpose. The diner was the first place he felt warmth again because of her. Her small acts, refilling his cup without charging, checking on him, smiling even through her own struggles, restored his faith in humanity. He wrote that she reminded him of his son's generosity, of the kindness he once believed existed. In gratitude, and in hope of giving her a life she deserved, he left her a part of his estate. Not millions, but enough to change her life. A small house fully paid off, financial support for her mother's medical needs, and a letter granting her ownership of a small lakeside bookstore he once bought for his wife but never reopened. Emma slid to the booth seat, tears falling silently. The lawyers stood respectfully, giving her space as reality cracked open around her. The bookstore, they said gently, was waiting for her, dusty but beautiful, forgotten but filled with memories. And now, with Henry gone, she was the one who would give it life again. Emma went home that day carrying more than papers. She carried the weight of kindness returning to her in a way she never imagined. She told her mother everything, and together they cried, not because Henry was gone, but because he had seen her, truly seen her, when she felt invisible to the world. The following weeks were a delicate balance of grief, gratitude, and overwhelming responsibility. Emma visited the bookstore first. The moment she stepped inside, the scent of old pages and wooden shelves wrapped around her like a forgotten embrace. Dust floated in golden rays of window light. It felt sacred, as if Henry's memories of love still whispered through the aisles. Emma spent days cleaning, repairing, repainting, pouring not just effort but heart into the space. And as she worked, she realized something profound. This wasn't just Henry's final gift. It was an invitation to rebuild her own life. Months later, the lakeside bookshop reopened, not as a business, but as a haven. Emma added a reading corner for children, a quiet tea area for elders, and shelves dedicated to stories of resilience. People who had once passed her by now stepped inside her shop, touched by the gentle warmth she poured into every detail. And every morning before opening, she placed a small framed photo of Henry on the front counter. In the picture, he was smiling shyly, wearing the same worn coat he had worn at the diner. Under the frame she placed a simple handwritten note, "For the man who reminded me that kindness always finds its way back." Her life transformed in ways she never anticipated, but she never forgot where it began, in a small diner with a tired waitress choosing kindness even when she had little to give. Her mother's health improved, their financial worries eased, and Emma finally breathed differently, freely, deeply, hopefully. Yet even in all the beauty her new life held, she continued to visit booth 3 at the diner every once in a while, sitting quietly and remembering the man who taught her that the smallest acts of kindness can echo louder than any grand gesture. As she looked around the bookstore one calm evening, watching children reading in the corner while elders sipped tea, she felt tears form again, not of grief, but of gratitude. She whispered a soft thank you to Henry's memory. She finally understood that sometimes angels don't appear with wings, they appear as quiet old men sitting in corner booths, carrying invisible stories, waiting for someone to show them a little light. Yellow Heart, if this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness matters, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your engagement helps this channel continue spreading warmth and hope to the world.